Well, I've just gone and done it, ladies and gents. I've just gone and fucking done it. I decided to play Manor Lords, and it was definitely an interesting experience. I'm Shadow, and welcome to Shadow Gaming. So, Manor Lords, it's developed by Slavic Magic. I know it's been in early access now for quite a while, but it's still kind of getting updates. I've seen a lot of presence on YouTube with people coming out with reviews on the updates, looking to see what they've added, what they're looking to do next, and things like that, which kind of pushed me towards physically actually playing it for myself and not it just, being covered in dust in my library because it hasn't been touched. The game is a combination of city building and real-time strategy in medieval warfare setting, and honestly, it's genius. It's actual genius. I could finally live out my dream of being a lord and whipping peasants down the street. Unfortunately, you can't do that in the game, but well, would be pretty cool. The big question is it worth your money? And that is a pretty fucking big question. Let's find out together. Oh my god, I'm so pathetic. Anywho, there is a decent amount of graphical settings to change. Obviously, this is, well, could be changed at any time they want in updates. Hopefully, they'll add a few more. I mean, I didn't really have a problem running the game, but I have had a couple of crashes, which is kind of to be expected from an early access game. But you would think now having not much content and there have been being able to really double down on performance is a little bit disheartening with the fact that we're still getting crashes and glitches and things like that. And I've read a couple of forums now that are saying that people are struggling with performance. I personally didn't, but to be honest, it wouldn't surprise me if I did. I played this in 40 and 40p just because I prefer that resolution, but honestly, I can imagine it probably runs even better on 1080. So, you know, depending on your monitor and what kind of resolution you want to play it on, you should not encounter any issues. But you know what? You might do. And there's nothing I can do about it. The biggest gripe I have for the game in terms of graphical settings is the fact that I tried to mimic it on testing wise, and when I tried to change settings to see if there was any difference in frame rate drops or anything like that, there really wasn't. So moving, like, for example, the level of detail down to lowest, the game wouldn't really bring any more FPS up, which is a little bit surprising, but I guess it depends on the optimization, which is something they do need to focus on at some point. Apart from that, yeah, decent amount of selection. You can change, obviously, the graphic settings and as much as you need to try and adjust your FPS, but honestly, it's nothing special. But enough about that technical stuff. Let's actually get into the gameplay. Oh, gameplay. I love the gameplay. So essentially, you get to create your own lord. So there's like different portraits you can pick from, and then you get to create your own sigil, which is quite cool. I wanted to go for a Templar-esque kind of scheme, because long live the Templars. Just get in, just get in. I love the assassins, especially Ezio. He's so dreamy. You'll then get placed into a random part of the map. Now, there is different resources, there is some overlays that you can look at before you even get started to kind of pre-plan where you're going to put specific buildings compared to where the best resources are for that place. Or you could just do what I did and just build a building wherever I wanted to, because at the end of the day, I was the Lord, so you know I do what I want. I'm not saying that as you should just do that, because I actually failed my first time I played this, so probably best to actually be smart. The city building is really something that I haven't. Well, I'm not a big city builder kind of person. I don't particularly like building things and those type of games. I have played them in the past, but they're not really my cup of tea. But honestly, the fact that Manor Lords has ditched the kind of grid system that's usually placed in these kind of games is a lot more appealing to me. Roads and paths and things like that form naturally, and it kind of follows the terrain and the movement of the villagers, and it actually feels like the roads are actually doing something rather than just a static thing in the game. I would personally like pre-plan what you're gonna do with the roads and how they're gonna connect with each other. It just makes things a lot easier down the line. Because please do not follow my example. Because yeah, I suck. You'll start, well, depending on the gaming settings, you'll start with a specific amount of resources which you need to be able to turn into, a flowing structure where you can gather more things, build more things, and progress as it goes on. Resource management is top tier and is something that you really need to keep an eye on when growing your village into a town. It's kind of very much more on the realistic side. Like you need to have, different wooding stations that do different things and create different things from wood. You need to have a granary so you can keep all your food and other supplies out of the rain and the cold winter, so it's stored away. You can build things like hunting cabins and fisheries, all that sort of jazz. And it's probably important that you look at the resources beforehand before you start deciding what you want to place, because the amount of dead peasants I had on my first run through was quite disturbing. I literally managed to kill everyone, and I don't even know how. They probably just started killing themselves at the point where there was no food, but whatever. The villagers are quite cool as well, so they have their own names, they have their own routines and needs of what they specifically want. So, some of them might be big drinkers or want specific food, and as a lord, you need to try and cater to those. I don't even know why we have to cater to those needs, because at the end of the day, we're lords and they're peasants. But I suppose you need peasants to run things and things like that, so yeah, I guess it makes sense. It's actually quite funny because I ignored their happiness for so long, and then eventually I actually had a rebellion on my hands, so yeah, that happens. The one thing I do really like about the kind of economy and things like that is, everything has a place, everything has a use. So, wood, for example, isn't just for building buildings and things like that. It's also fuel to keep people warm in the winter. It's used for the blacksmith, who then can create tools and things like that. So every kind of nitty gritty detail has kind of been thought out when it comes to the economy, and that's something that I really appreciate when you're looking at this type of game in a realistic vision. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed my time building a village, even though it was small, and I got to the point where obviously they rebelled and then they actually probably started killing themselves. But the fact that all these little attributes add up, and the fact that if you do decide to ignore happiness, for example, you will get that rebellion. Or if you're not creating enough wood, then you can't create more buildings, and it's something that you really need to be able to think about. I tried to, in my second playthrough, actually pre-plan what I was going to do with what resources. And yeah, it definitely requires planning. This game, it's not something that you can just bomb your way through and be like, yeah, bam, 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 wood there, get some farms up there, boom. Because if people die or get sick, they can't work, and the whole economy is just a great system, and it all works and flows really nicely. Visually, this game looks great. Really, really up there for an early access product. Trying to take away the performance issues, if you don't have the performance issues, it does look like a really good game. And the fact that they put a lot of effort into really adding detail to the villagers, and the way things are transported, the way they move and everything like that, it's really nice to see that. And also the kind of music that goes along with it's quite badass as well. Not just the visuals, but the immersion is there as well. Like, for example, if you have like a massive storm, your fields will get drenched and therefore flood and kill the crops. It's every like Even the weather system has its own place and its own functionality when it comes to the building side of the game. So everything fits, and it just makes playing this game as a lord really immersive. Now, if you're here to talk about the actual battle system and the warfare system, oh boy, oh boy, it's fucking good. Obviously, you need to have the economy to back this up, and only if you have that economy you are able to support an army, which they've just recently added a couple more troop types. So playing these battles is getting a little bit more tactical and just a little bit more advanced than what it was. Again, it's very based on, realism. I like the fact that, if you do have a big army and it dies, that's a lot of population to die, and that's going to have an impact on your village or town. And because of that, that may have other complications down the road. You shouldn't necessarily go to war just because you want to, unless you're like me. I just went to war for the sake of it, and it did have those consequences for me in the game. My economy really slowed down. It takes a while to get back up because also if people die, and we have to wait for the children to grow up and things like that. It does really add to the immersive kind of aspect of the game, which is great. The battles are really kind of cinematic. I actually really enjoyed it. Troop positioning, making sure that you keep archers elevated for better range. You need to try and get some flanks on some enemy forces. Morale is quite a big thing when it comes to the actual battle side of this game. If your morale of your troops is very low, then they're not going to stay fighting either as hard or as long as they probably could have if they had better morale. And honestly, if you're losing too many soldiers too quickly, then troops are going to be in a panic and they will flee the battlefield. The animations of those battles is like, ugh, just knight v knight and just like punching people and soldiers raising their shields to try and block arrows. It's very immersive, the fact that with the formations, it's very dynamic when it comes to that realism, but also it's really kind of rewarding when you actually win a fight. I mean, I lost quite a few times before I actually won a battle, and that's just me because I'm honestly shit. But honestly, if you've played a lot of RTS games, you can build an economy really quickly and things like that. When it comes to the actual strategy side of it in the warfare, then you're going to be solid. You're going to be absolutely solid. This, unfortunately, is where you do start to get a lot of performance issues, especially in larger battles. I did struggle in a couple occasions where, there was probably about maybe 200 troops on the battlefield at one time, and it started to lag, and that's something they need to really look into when it comes to performance. Obviously, the other issue with it, the fact that it's an early access, late game can feel a little bit repetitive, especially if you've, built a village a couple of times. I mean, on my fourth playthrough, for example, and I finally got the economy running, I could finally support myself with an army and things like that. Once that kind of novelty has gone, it does seem a little repetitive, but again, it is an early access, so it's something they need to look at feedback and try and create before they actually release the game, which is, I'm sure, it's on their list of priorities. I also think the UI is a little bit cluttered for my liking, especially the resources. You can get pop-up messages and things like that. It can get really cluttered quite quickly, so probably maybe not redesigning it, but just tweaking that to be a little bit cleaner, a little bit more clear. Now, the real question: is it worth the money? It's about 35 Great British pounds, which is, again, and if you saw my review on Witchfire, which you should go and see, I'll link it at the end of this video. It's very high for an early access product. However, I do think they've delivered on a lot of good things, especially the new systems. They've also created a game that's not really anywhere else on the market, which has done them obviously huge favors when it comes to marketing and things like that. I paid £16 because it was on sale at the time when I bought it, but is it worth 35? I personally wouldn't pay the 35. I'd wait for it to be on sale. Just because the fact that, yes, you're going to get quite a good amount of hours out of the game, but it's not quite there, and I don't think it's quite worth £35 in today's economy. However, if you're looking for a longer term investment, then go ahead, because obviously they will be continually adding things and updates, and they're regularly pushing things out. So if you're looking for that more long-term investment, then yeah, sure ahead. It's definitely worth the £35, especially if you can get it now and then when it's finally released in halves. all the bits and pieces necessary to make the game finished and polished, then yeah, fantastic. It's definitely going to be worth £35. But at this time, no, I do not believe it's worth that price tag. But the other side of it is it's definitely on the higher end of early access quality. There is quite a bit of content. Their idea is great. They're really pushing in the direction that they feel comfortable with. It's something that I've very much enjoyed playing through the process. I'm not a particularly pre-planning, methodical player. I like to just do shit and get on with it. And if I have to deal with consequences, then well, they'll just fucking deal with them, kind of thing. But for people who really like this type of genre of games, then yeah, 100%, you should definitely look into this. Definitely keep it on your wish list, just so you can keep up with the updates and things like that. Which to be fair, are constantly coming out. There's a lot of YouTubers got a lot of traction from the game as well, so it's definitely worth keeping an eye on if you don't want to buy it right now. 100%. But that's it for today. That was our review for Manor Lords. I might do another review when it's fully out and compare it to what we've seen today. But you never know. So, what do you think of the game? I mean, have you played it? Have you not played it? Let me know the reasons why. What do you think is going to be in its future? Do you think the next update will bring even more features? Let me know in the comments below. Let me know your thoughts. Now, if you enjoyed this review, you should smack that subscribe button like you've punched Hitler in the face, and then you should press that little like button because likes are cool. And then if you want to be extra, extra, extra cool, then you touch the bell. And if you touch the bell, you'll never miss a review or a funny gaming video ever again. So until next time, stay noble, my lords and ladies. Goodbye.